The Skyline Mall was the one for us, which was a bit of a hike, so we would have to walk. It would be about an hour walk. We were so excited because Wild at Heart was coming out, and we didn't know what to expect, and we get in and we sit down and we watch the movie starts, and there's like the music and the fire, and then there's that opening scene, and my friend was like, no, and stood up and like walked an hour back home. And we were like, I'm staying. This movie is awesome.
Welcome to the American Cinematheque podcast, the show where guests program the film festival of their lives. Joining us today is an actor, writer, and director. You know him from such films as Blue Ruin, I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore, the Toxic Avenger reboot, and coming out later this month, Idiots, starring Dave Franco. Programming the Macon Blair Film Festival, it's Macon Blair.
Hey, nice to see you. Thank you for having me.
Welcome. The way we like to get to know our guest first is by asking you this question. Mm-hmm. When you go to a movie theater, what is your ritual? Where do you sit? What do you eat? What do you do?
Early, center, back. You know what? Let me reframe that, because it used to be back, and then everybody started fucking around with their phones. And then you got all this going on.
Yeah.
So now maybe it's more like center, closer to the front, and then it's going to be a popcorn, probably Raisinets.
Put together or separate?
No, I keep them separate.
What do you drink? Anything?
Back in the day, it was going to be cherry Coke, and you know what I'd get the Twizzlers, snip the ends off, use the Twizzler as the straw.
That's the way you do
it. These days it's Diet Coke, but...
so far, it's you,
no
me,
apologies.
and Mary Bronstein, I think, are the three that use Twizzlers as
Twizzler
a straw.
straws? That was the whole point of Twizzlers, was to use them as a straw.
At what point did this Twizzler deteriorate enough that you had to abandon it and start a new one?
It would actually, what it would do is it would harden, because it would be cold, and so it would lose its twistability. And then you would basically just have like a flavorless stick. And so, you'd have to switch to something new.
These are the hard-hitting questions we ask on this show.
I'm so glad to get this off my chest. I've been carrying it around for years. Thank you.
So Twizzlers over Red Vines, of course, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, my God. I'm not an animal.
Yeah. So do you remember the first time you ever walked into a movie theater?
I do. Okay. Absolutely. Well, it's kind of two things. The first time I remember walking in with like, red carpets, and it was Star Wars. My dad took me. I was very, very young, didn't totally understand the story, but was captivated. I do have some sort of like out of context image memories of Pinocchio when I was even younger than that, and I remember getting very upset in the whale sequence. It was very frightening. But the first time that I was like, this is a place that you go to, you walk in, you know, like it's a special environment. It was Star Wars, yeah.
And so where was this? This was in Virginia?
Yeah, uh-huh.
And what was that? What was the place like?
I mean, it was so long ago, but I remember it. I remember it being like it had a big, expansive red carpet when I walked in. It seemed enormous. And I remember having to leave to go to the bathroom in the middle, and it felt like I had to run through a maze, and I was like, I gotta get back to see what's happening, like we gotta go this quick. And so I remember it being very big, but that's also proportionate because I was probably this tall. It was somewhere in Springfield, Virginia. I don't remember which theater it was, but my memory of it was that it had that old school feeling of kind of like, gold around the edges of things, like probably an older theater that maybe had withstood time.
And did that trigger you into becoming a massive Star Wars fan at that point with all the merch and everything you get?
That's exactly what happened. My dad, I didn't even know that was a thing, that you could see this big story on a screen and then there would be a toy associated with it. But he was like, all right, check this out. And he took me to, maybe it was Toys R Us, some kind of toy store, and I got an R2-D2 and a C-3PO. And it was really formative. It became like getting to see that movie again. And then guess what? There's going to be a new one coming out. And then there was older kids who were a little more plugged in, and they were like, this new one has Muppets. And I was like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Because I was imagining Gonzo or Fozzie, and I was like, this is going to fuck up this movie. and then it turned out to be Yoda, and I was like, okay, this is perfect. This is great. Yeah, it became a whole thing that, lasted for years.
All right, Macon, we're going to get to why we are here. Behind you are 8 show times. You're going to program them out of the most formidable and memorable movie-going experiences of your life. We have opening night, family matinee, midnight movie, secret screening, double feature, audience award, dream screening, and closing night.
Okay.
Is Star Wars going to be played, or is there anything you want to play immediately on this board?
I can start with whatever one you think would be good. Why not opening night?
Yeah, opening night. Let's do it.
For me, it's difficult to pick what are your favorite movies? That's such a tricky question. But if someone had a pistol to my head, Repo Man would 100% be in the top 5. Might be number 1 even. I picked that one for my opening night. It's just it never gets old for me.
And you can see the DNA of the films you've directed, especially the villains with your new film, Idiots.
Yeah.
When you see the villains, they're Repo Man villains.
Totally. The Repo Man good guys, the Repo Man cars, it's Repo Man colors, it's Repo Man everything, yeah. When I go back to what I like to see on screen, there's something about that. And it's, it's a lot of different things. It's music, it's the way the characters are they're always bickering over top of each other and how that is just endlessly funny to me. There's the way it looks, where it's a lot of red and green at the same time, and old junky cars that are just barely held together. And
people
also,
getting new jobs.
People getting new jobs, like the world sort of vaguely falling apart at all times. It's all of that. So it's not like a specific plot point or a character. It's more like a vibe.
Oh, and where they might use someone from the Circle Jerks and that, you use David Yao from Jesus Lizard.
Yes.
There you go. It's all
man,
there.
that was like, they've been my favorite band for the longest time. And when I wrote that script, I wrote the bad guy part with him in mind, with no expectation. Like, I have no idea. And I found an email online for him, and I just sent a blind query to that email, like, hey, would you like to? And what I said was, would you like to discuss being in this movie? And I never heard back for months. And then months later, I was in line at the grocery store and my phone rings. I was like, hey, this is David Yao. I'm playing Marshall in your movie. And I was like, oh shit, no. Like, I'm not in a position to offer the part just yet, but if we could discuss it a little bit. But it totally worked out. And I love him so much. And whenever I get a chance to work with him, that's what I do.
Do you remember where you first saw Repo Man, or how that was?
Yeah, I mean, it like a lot of people, you've got the older brothers or older sisters who are like, this is the cool shit. And at the time, it was the record. It was the soundtrack. And so the movie was kind of secondary. And so I sort of fell in love with it because it had all this cool music in it. And the movie was there, but it was a vehicle for the soundtrack. And then as I got older, it kind of became like, oh, it's also so funny. And then as I got older still, it became like, oh God, it's this sharp critique of sort of capitalism that like totally went over my head when I was 16. And so every couple of years I would sort of rediscover it on new terms, and that's why I think it's stayed a favorite for so long.
Let's do it. Opening night, Alex Cox's Repo Man. All right, we've got opening night, Repo Man. When you're there in Virginia and you're watching movies, was there a movie that you first saw or something that made you aware that, oh, this is a job or a career, like there's something here that I could do?
Sure. Not necessarily that I could do, but when they would play like the Universal monster movies on 16 millimeter at the library on Halloween season.
Wow.
So we would go and, you get a little thing of popcorn and my brothers and I, and they would show like Wolfman and Frankenstein, and we got really sucked into those. And then somehow my mom at the library found a book that was about like Jack Pierce and Lon Chaney, and it was just like pretty rudimentary, but it was like, this is how they, they put cheesecloth, and they did this, and they would change the lights to make the green paint look different, and it was suddenly like, oh, there's like those pictures didn't just appear out of nowhere. There's like people that are like doing stuff that looks like arts and crafts. It looks like art class, there's like paintbrushes and stuff sitting around. That was really illuminating. And then around that time, we would get into makeup, my brothers and I, and also stop motion animation and all that kind of stuff. So the sort of practicality of it became very interesting. And then you start watching the movies, like enjoying what the story is or whatever, but then there's also kind of like, how do they do that? And you're kind of like running this second like perception underneath that of like, where did that come from, or like how do they build that? And not necessarily knowing, but kind of wondering was part of the fun.
So tell me more about this library. I was looking at old film strips online. Like, I was like, oh wow, film strips. But I loved when they would wheel in like a 16 millimeter projector.
Exactly. Exactly. On one of the carts. And I realized, because then a couple of years later at the rec center, where like the kids would just go, because it was like a free thing to, you would basically sit in a gym after school before everybody's parents got home from school, and periodically they would wheel in the projector. And I think they might have just had, now that I think about it, they might have just had a collection of like 6 movies from the 30s that they would just be like, we're going to play Frankenstein today. Because I saw Frankenstein a lot. They would play that a bunch, but it was always kind of like a special treat when it was movie time.
And at this point, you couldn't just, they were difficult to see unless this library was actually showing that to you.
Yeah, this would have been early, mid 80s. So I guess like within a couple of years, there was an Aero's, which would then become Blockbuster. But, you know, like we were pretty late in getting we started with a Betamax. We were late in getting that. So so for a while it was kind of like there was TV and they would play cool movies on the local syndicated station. Other than that, if not at a movie theater, that was a cool way to see them.
Of the Universal horror, is Frankenstein?
Yeah,
that's the top
for me. Yeah. I mean, I kind of love them all, but Frankenstein was the one that really stuck with me. I really liked Fritz, the Dwight Fry character, and you know, just there was something about like the graveyards with the crooked gravestones, whatever. Like I could just, I could do that all day. And so I really liked Wolfman, but honestly, like. Wolfman's kind of slow for the first 45 minutes, and then like the transformations don't get really cool until the subsequent movies. And the best ones are in the Abbott and Costello movies. And Dracula's awesome too. So
I even like Son of Frankenstein. I know it's ridiculous, but I love Son of Frankenstein because you get Karloff and Lugosi.
Absolutely. Like I mean, it's kind of after the first 2 when they start switching up, and it's like. Then you're kind of like, who's playing the monster this time? It's like, maybe it's Lugosi or maybe it's Strange, you know.
All right, is there a family matinee? If it's not Frankenstein, what do you think that would be?
You know what it was? Because the way it was described was something that made an impression on you as a kid.
Yeah.
The Clash of the Titans was one that I saw at a young age. And there was something about that one with the Harryhausen effects where you could kind of... You know, you could tell with the stuttering way they moved and there's no motion blur that they weren't really moving, but at the same time you could see that they were definitely actually there. There was a thing there. And so the kind of like, how are they doing both simultaneously was really fascinating to me. And that sort of coincided with this period of time where there was an older kid across the street from me, had a Super 8 camera, and he was kind of teaching us how to do little plasticine models to make stop motion little 2-minute shorts, and that one was the first one of those. At that point I hadn't seen Jason and the Argonauts or any of the others. It was just kind of like, so that was kind of the gold standard for me, and it had so many cool creatures. There was the one character, Calibos, who was like in close-ups was this Shakespearean actor, and then in the wides he was a model. And so there was this kind of like, wait, what? There was a cool magic trick element to it that really I found captivating. And it was also just really, Medusa was terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. And so that one was... Is
that the kind of film you would take your kids, would you wish you could take them to see on the big screen?
Yeah, absolutely. I showed that one to them, and they really loved it. Yeah. And in fact, they got into I think there's just something about that style of stop motion that like is pleasing for some reason, because they will really skate over. When I try to show them older movies, they're kind of like, it's boring or it's slow or whatever, but not that one. That one they were locked in the whole time.
I remember I was at a Murphy's Mart, and there was, you know, you open up the papers, the newspaper, and there'd be all the photos, and there's a photo of Clash of the Titans. I remember like, this is what we're going to see, and then I think we went and saw Manhattan or something.
I've been betrayed.
It's like, that's not Clash of the Titans. We saw Manhattan. All right, so we're gonna play that up on the board. The Clash of the Titans. There it is. All right, we've got 2 slots programmed to the Macon Blair Film Festival. We got Repo Man, Clash of the Titans. You went from Virginia to New York City directly?
Yes.
Yeah. And you moved there with friends as well, right?
Yeah, a bunch of my friends, Jeremy Saulnier, now very successful director now, Chris Sharp, Paul Goldblatt, all these dudes that we had grown up together with, making movies together, all kind of moved up there simultaneously, and I would stay on their couches for like a year. And we just spent a lot of time trying to get our foot in the door however we could. But yeah, we were all up there together for 15, almost 20 years.
Yeah. And was there films that you all watched as a unit?
I mean, we would watch everything, like
Yeah.
anything that came out. I mean, in high school, there was a really cool video store called Video Vault in Old Town, in the Old Town neighborhood of our town where we grew up, and that had all of the horror stuff, B-movie stuff, weird, like hard to find, not mainstream stuff. And so it was a little bit more of a hike. You'd have to take the bus or walk for a real long time, but it was always worth it. Find some crazy stuff and go home and spend an afternoon in somebody's parents' basement watching like Pigs or something like that.
Pigs, slugs, that kind of thing.
Yeah, Food of the Gods.
There's often an element of revenge in some of your films. Some of them.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of like, I think it makes a very immediate kind of sense. I think like those types of movies, like whether they're westerns or crime movies or whatever, like they play well. It's wish fulfillment. The cause and effect makes immediate sense. Like somebody did a wrong to me and I'm going to lash out at them, and you can kind of get away with that in movies in a way that like is not realistic in real life. So yeah.
And this new one is more of it's a road picture.
Yeah.
What are your favorite comedies that you've seen, or any sort of comedy road pictures or anything like that?
The Last Detail is one that we were hugely inspired by, bordering on plagiarism, but you know, mismatched characters that don't especially get along in a confined space. They've got to get from here to there, and what happens along the way. It's kind of a classic recipe, but that was one in particular that the two guys have a prisoner more or less under their charge that they have to keep control of, and so we kind of did the kind of less elegant version of that in this movie. But yeah, that was one that we took a lot of inspiration from.
And tonally, it's a comedy, but there's also like there's something else behind it at the same point. You know,
yeah. I mean, it's meant to be mostly funny. That then like here and there it swerves into darkness or something a little more sinister. And part of that is sort of like trying to have fun with the audience and kind of surprise them if they settle into thinking, I understand what this type of movie is and it's going to go this way, and then maybe we like pull the steering wheel this way a little bit. It's two guys that have to transport a kid to a treatment facility and sort of discovering what type of person this kid is a big part of the movie.
Yeah, it unfolds. When you're looking for the beats, do you picture it always on the big screen?
Yeah. I mean, like that's always the hope. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, getting to make a movie at all, it feels like a victory. I'll take whatever I can get. But yeah, the goal is to get it seen on a big screen, and part of it is having those swerves in tone or in character. They just play better when you're in a room full of strangers, and I think that's kind of true of anything. Like this is not exactly what we're talking about, but just about a couple of weeks ago, I went and saw Rear Window for the first time on a big screen in a packed house, and I didn't realize how funny that movie was. Like I've always loved it, and it was always suspenseful, and I loved the performances. It's hilarious. And I didn't realize that until you're in a room full of people and everyone's kind of like, because they're not jokes, it's not huge gags, it's like little reactions and just little editorial things, but they're very funny, and everybody reacting to it at once, it makes it 10 times funnier. And so that's the hope.
All right, we're now at Midnight Movie.
Okay.
The Man Who Made Toxic Avenger. I think this should be up your alley.
Yeah. I picked one. Have you ever seen Begotten?
Yes.
Okay. Very few movies really scare me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this movie is not, it's not scary plot-wise or like jump scares. It's like the vibe of it is so sinister to me and unsettling that just it's one of those ones that like when I was done watching it, I felt disoriented for a while. I think it probably has a plot of some kind. There's some kind of cause and effect, but you maybe wouldn't know it. It's visual, and the visuals are haunting and ghostly and surreal. And near as I can tell, it's it's all in like scratchy black and white film that looks like it's been buried under a rock for 1,000 years and somebody found it accidentally, and you get a glimpse of these strange like god creatures that are maybe birthing some new version of themselves, and I'm not entirely sure what goes on.
What's going on?
But it freaked me out, by God. And it's one of those ones that like it's stayed with me. I wouldn't say I watch it frequently. I've seen it like probably 3 or 4 times in my life. I saw it for the first time when I was in college. It was one of those ones that had a really strange cover, and you know, when you're looking at the covers of videotapes, that's kind of how you make your selection. And it was this weird face with like a distended black mouth and strange black eyes, and it was always just such an arresting image. I finally was like, all right, let's see what this is about, and it was terrifying.
Feels like an older artifact, that film.
Yeah,
you know?
it felt like a cursed object or something like that, but an amazing movie. I've never seen something that sort of like had that specific kind of emotional impact on me.
And that director went on to make the Willem Dafoe
Shadow of the Vampire.
Shadow of the Vampire.
It's
yeah.
also great.
And I think there's a restoration of The Begotten coming out soon.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We hope we don't restore it too much, because...
Yeah, that's part of the charm is that like it's not restored.
All right, midnight movie, Begotten.
Begotten.
All right, we have 3 films on the board: Repo Man, Clash of the Titans, Begotten. Do you remember the hardest you've ever laughed at a movie? The reason I'm asking is the opening, idiots. I love when things unfold in, not to give anything away, but you're sitting there with the character,
yes,
and realizing like what actually just happened,
yes,
and you're in that person's shoes,
yes,
and that makes me laugh the hardest when I see a film.
I'm so glad you said that. That was exactly what we hoped for, was that people would be kind of like, what is it, and then you get it. But that's but when I was a kid, my parents went to a church in Washington D.C. and I was not in this group, but there was a big scandal because the youth group, which is like 12 and 13-year-olds, I guess, their leader took them to see Fatal Attraction on opening weekend, and like everybody was so pissed, and I was like, what happened? And that just sort of stayed in my head.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it stayed in my head.
Oh wow. So and they sat through the whole movie.
Yes, that was the whole thing, and then it became like, well, now I got to see this movie. What's going on?
And it just digs deeper and deeper into that.
Yeah.
When I was in 6th grade, they were supposed to show us. We were studying the rainforest. Supposed to show us the Emerald Forest, and the guy rented. Our teacher wasn't the brightest. Rented something called Green Ice.
With Ryan O'Neal?
Yes.
Dude, that was on HBO all the time. And there's that scene at the beginning where they like catch the people and that lady gets shot. And it was kind of like, that traumatized me. Like, I was really not.
It was very violent. There's nudity in it. It's all about smuggling emeralds.
Yes, yeah. That movie freaked me out because I didn't like, you know, you kind of see people walking around, and before you have an understanding of like, well, movies are going to escalate. They're going to go somewhere, and you're just kind of like, I don't know. They're in a car. They're getting off a train or whatever, and all of a sudden they're just getting executed in cold blood. And I was like, I want to go home. Like, yeah.
So do you have a favorite theater or favorite theaters in your life that you've gone to? Are there certain ones you always attend?
In my life, right now I live in Austin, and I really love the Austin Film Society Theater that Richard Linklater owns and curates, and
Lars programs.
Yes, yeah. I was just emailing with him, as a matter of fact. And then there's one called Galaxy Highlands, which is just like a multiplex, but it's just like the staff is like a bunch of teenagers, and they're the nicest people in the world, and it just reminds me of like the mall theaters I would go to when I was a kid, and you know, take the kids to go see him, and if the kids are a little noisy or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's fine. So those are the ones that I go to now.
The mall theaters are a beautiful place. We all talk about movie palaces now and single screen cinemas, but back in the day, the magic of the mall cinema was
for sure
awesome.
There was the Skyline Mall was the one for us, which was a bit of a hike, so we would have to walk, and it would be about an hour walk. Totally worth it. And one of the best was like, we were so excited because Wild at Heart was coming out, and we hiked in this hot summer to get to the theater, and it was me and like a group of my buds, and we didn't know what to expect, and we get in and we sit down and we watch the movie starts, and there's like the music and the fire, and then there's that opening scene, and my friend was like, no, and stood up and like walked an hour back home, and we were like, I'm staying, this movie is awesome. But he didn't want to, so.
Would you like to do secret screening? This is something you would like to surprise someone with.
Yeah, I'll do secret screening, because that's what it said, was surprise someone with, and it would surprise the hell out of certainly myself or anybody. But if we could get London After Midnight, which, as far as I know, doesn't exist anymore, and I've never seen it, but I've seen all the stills, and I've read about it, and it's one of those like lost movies that I always was hoping somebody would be like, oh, we found a copy, and it's like you can find it somewhere or something like that. But as far as I can tell, the last version of it went up in a fire 50 years ago or something like that. So I don't know if it's ever going to be found or not, but that was one that I was always sort of curious about, because that one was in all of those books that I was talking about earlier, and they had the pictures of him with the cape and the teeth and everything like that, and but you could never find it
anywhere. Thought it existed as a kid because I'd see the photos, and I go, one day I'm going to see that.
What's it called? The Mandela effect?
Yeah.
When like people think that they...
Yeah.
I've talked to people like, I saw it.
Yeah.
And I was like, did you really? Or is it like...
It stars the Berenstain Bears.
Yeah. Talking about a different one. It was Todd Browning, and it had Lon Chaney in it. And the funny thing is that, like, in reading about it, all of the pictures, he looks terrifying. And like that picture of him, there's kind of a famous image where he's wearing a black cape, and he holds him up like this, so he looks like a bat, and he's got a top hat and kind of like a crazy, I don't know, killer man face. And that sort of image seems to have been co-opted a couple of times for, like, I feel like I've seen it on like band flyers or something like that. It's kind of like a pop culture image that's out there. But then, like, when if you read people who talk about who actually have seen it from back in the day, they kind of complain that it's boring, and it's actually kind of a melodrama that, like, a scary guy pops up at the end, but it's mostly just sort of like society people talking to each other. So it's maybe not like a wall-to-wall horror movie the way it exists in people's imaginations.
Which makes sense, because Freaks isn't really a horror film, but at the end it gets horrific.
Exactly.
It's like a story.
Yes. Yeah. I love that movie too, though.
I would definitely be there.
Yeah.
London After Midnight, secret screening.
Yeah.
All right, we're halfway through the Macon Blair Film Festival. We got Repo Man, Clash of the Titans, Begotten in London After Midnight. Are you someone who goes to double features?
These days, not as much, just because it's sort of like there's a coordination of finding a babysitter and, like, what are we going to do with the kids or whatever. But like, if possible, sure. When it usually is there's Fantastic Fest in Austin, and so if I can get a badge to that, then I can just sort of like take a day and then just go and spend a day going from theater to theater. So that's kind of my opportunity to do that these days.
Did you go to double features in New York back in the day, or is that very LA? I think we have a lot of double features here.
Yeah, I don't remember doing that very much. It was usually like one and then straight to the bar.
Where did you go in New York? Did you go to Film Forum ever, or just like
everywhere? There was, before it was Nighthawk, it was this big theater that was right on the south corner of Prospect Park, and it had, like, you know, you could imagine that back in the day it was probably very spectacular, big red staircases and columns and everything like that. But at this particular time, it was quite seedy. You know, like the seats were falling apart. Might have had bed bugs. I don't know. But that was the neighborhood theater, and it was just so fun to go to. There was. I was hanging out at this particular bar, and me and the bartender were like, you know, this movie called Snakes on a Plane is coming out. You know anything about it? I was like, no, but I would bet there is going to be snakes on a plane. And so we got really excited about it, and our whole, like, for 3 weeks building up to it, it was like, snakes on a plane, snakes on a plane. And so in the prompt that you gave me, it was what was the most memorable screening that you've been to. So on opening day of Snakes on a Plane, I got 4 40s, 2 in each bag, went in, got in, and finished them during Snakes on a Plane. The crowd was berserk. There was a guy smoking a cigar. People were getting high over here. Somehow, probably from the trailer, I guess people kind of knew the line, like, I'm sick of these snakes on my motherfucking plane. So when that line came up, that the crowd yelled it totally wrong and like kind of out of time, but like everybody was playing along with it. And it was, and this was a daytime screening too. So it was absolutely bananas and lived up to all the hype that we had created in our own minds for like, this is going to be the coolest thing
How many
ever.
people went with you on your party?
It was just me and one other, me and the bartender,
So you
Lynn.
got 2 40s each.
No,
So you got an 80.
no. I had 4 40s. She had her own shit. And then everybody else was on their own. And it was a blast.
Yeah,
It was
and
absolutely a blast.
Cigar smoking.
That wasn't me. That was somebody else over here. It was like it was,
Yeah.
it was kind of a wild environment.
It was like a painting of what was going on. Was that
Yeah.
the Sanders Theater? Was that what it was called?
No, it's
No.
right on the tip of my tongue. And what? That's it.
The Pavilion.
The Pavilion. Love that theater. Saw a lot of stuff there.
Sounds like a good time at the Pavilion. Audience Award, Snakes on a Plane. All right, we are back with the Macon Blair Film Festival with Repo Man, Clash of the Titans, Begotten London After Midnight, Snakes on a Plane. We still have double feature, dream screening, and closing night. We were talking about double features.
Double features, yeah.
What is your ultimate double feature?
This was just one that I thought would be a lot of fun. I was kind of racking my brain, but if you took Rude Boy and Rock and Roll High School, because they're kind of the same thing, with like opposite ends of like vibe, you know? Rude Boy is it's from 1980, and there's this young kid, and he's hanging out with the Clash, and the Clash is playing themselves, and it's really just about him sort of he becomes their roadie, he sort of becomes their friend, and there's this backdrop of this rise of like right-wing sort of Nazi groups, and then the counter groups against that, and against that friction, there's a bunch of Clash concerts, and it's not there's not like a huge plot that you're following. You're just kind of hanging out with these people. But it's very realistic. It's very stark. It's wild that, you know, the Clash, when you see them play, you understand why they're so beloved. It's these great concert sequences. But when they're hanging out off stage, the movie kind of, it's not that it paints a bad picture of them, but it's just like they're kind of like regular people. It's flaws and all. So like some of them are kind of obnoxious or kind of mean, and you know they don't like make themselves out to be like perfect saints. And ultimately the kid isn't really even sure if he likes them all that much anyway. The movie kind of culminates with him telling Joe Strummer to keep politics out of his music, and Joe Strummer's like ignoring him. But it's this fascinating sort of like time capsule, and the music is wonderful. I wouldn't say it's a feel-good movie, but it's absolutely captivating. And then you've got Rock and Roll High School, which is kind of like the fairy tale gonzo version of that, where you've got a high school kid, PJ Souls, who's obsessed with the Ramones, and she's trying to get them to come to town. And the Ramones do come around, and they put on some shows, and you pause the movie and go watch these little concert bits for a while, but it's also like completely over the top dream sequences, and there's this like evil principal character that Mary Warrenoff plays, and in one scene she's kind of tormenting some science lab rats, and later in the movie, like a full-sized adult rat that's like 6 feet tall tries to get into the concert, and they kind of don't really explain it. It's just kind of like it just happens.
Yeah.
And it ultimately ends in this big siege showdown where like all the authority figures are gathered outside, and the Ramones and PJ Souls are inside the high school, and they're resisting the siege and also putting on a concert, and ultimately the high school explodes. Yeah. So it's like the thing about like a kid sort of like interacting with their musical idols and having a story that's punctuated by really great musical numbers. They kind of seemed like two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, and one feels almost like a documentary at times. The other one has like the kid comes up out of the bathtub. Like it's so surreal that things happens in it.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. She has all these dreams where like Joey's just singing directly to her, and they're like, they're suddenly in her backyard, like serenading her up through the window and stuff.
It's part of the Get Crazy universe. Like those kind of like weird, surreal punk rock films are awesome.
Yeah, love them.
I love the pick. Rude Boy and Rock and Roll High School. So we have Rude Boy, Rock and Roll High School, joining Snakes on a Plane, London After Midnight, Begotten, Clash of the Titans, and Repo Man. We're back to Dream Screening and Closing Night. Is there any of these that you would like to play?
I'll do Dream Screening really quickly because I can't really talk about it because it doesn't exist. But my understanding is that before he died, David Lynch was working on something, and I've heard that it was called Night Blooming Jasmine or maybe something else. And maybe it was going to be on Netflix or maybe not. Like I have no idea what the actual context of it is, but knowing that there was a thing there that that could have happened had he not passed away, that would 100% be, if we're talking about alternate universes or just dream scenario stuff that I can pull from thin air, that would be the number one thing that I would that I would hope to get a chance to see.
Paint the setting of the ultimate Night Blooming Jasmine screening. Where would you want it to be? What theater?
Oh, geez. Because it's close to my house, I would love to see it at the AFS Theater. It's a beautiful, huge screen. It's got the red curtains and everything, so that might even be appropriate. But honest to God, I would take it on a dubbed over VHS, secondhand, like with a little watermark on it. I would take whatever I could get, honestly.
Did you have a lot of those, like the Hodorowski films, or any of the ones that you'd have to get that were obviously from a VHS to a VHS to a VHS when you were younger? Did you have any of those?
Not too many that I can think of. I did have a really big VHS collection at one point, and then I had to move. And had to sell it, but almost all of those there was some stuff that was like taped off of TV or taped off of HBO back in the day, but most of them were not. So yeah, no, not as many of those.
So it would be Night Blooming Jasmine,
if possible. Sure.
Possible. Yeah. Maybe you would go see it, and then you would get the VHS as you leave.
Yeah, I would. I would take whatever I could. I just like really love his stuff so much, like a lot of people, and the idea that there might have been one more to come is something that's very captivating to think about.
We're going to call it the David Lynch Project, and in your dream world, it's called Night Blooming Jasmine.
Yeah, I might have. I thought I heard that I thought somebody had seen that there was a cover page of a script that had that on it, but that could also be a Mandela effect. Maybe I just dreamt that and woke up like, oh shit, it's real.
But either way, the dream is to get one more. The great David Lynch. Let's put the David Lynch Project on there, Night Blooming Jasmine. It's one or the other. We're calling it that. With Idiots, you often like to work with some of the same people and collaborate. Can you talk about what that does and you bring that joy and collaboration to a big screen?
Yeah, I love getting to work on movies. I feel very fortunate whenever I get to do that. And it always feels like an extension of what my friends and I were getting into when we were growing up. But sort of getting to do it on like a larger scale and perhaps a professional scale, whatever. But it's the same thing. It's running around in a van with your friends trying to grab shots and come up with stuff that makes each other laugh. And so invariably when you like are working on something, you're in close contact with people and you tend to get close to them and they tend to develop friendships. And then I'm just like, I just want to preserve that. And it's just like, I just want that to keep going forward. And so it's not always possible because of whatever is in the script or schedules or whatever, but whenever it's possible, yeah, I just want to like keep my friends close because that's sort of the joy of the whole thing is getting to work with people that you love. And you know, but then also you meet new people, and so there's that too. But yeah, whenever I can keep it in the family. I try to.
You were at the American Cinematheque, our Beyond Fest for Toxic Avenger.
Yeah.
How was that screening to you?
Amazing. It was amazing. I mean, that was exactly the type of screening that I hoped that movie would have. People with mops, people in costumes, glow-in-the-dark shit everywhere. They had a drinking toxic sludge contest, which I think was Jell-O, but like people drank a lot of it. It was messy.
We normally throw things at the audience. I remember Christian actually threw a mop
He did,
at the audience.
and I think they had. Did they have a T-shirt gun? Am I remembering?
T-shirt
Yeah,
cannon.
yeah. And just sort of like everybody was so enthused, and they were there for that movie in particular, which like it's not for everybody, but for the people it's for them, and that's who showed up. And
The whole theater was themed.
absolutely.
I remember
Yeah.
They had stuff you can give the audience got different. And there's a big barrel outside with toxic like sludge.
Yeah, like dry ice and stuff coming out and everything. It was really magical, and not just like screening the movie, but the fact that they put so much love and exuberance into the whole thing. It really blew me away, and it was one of those things that I'll think about for a long time.
All right, we're at closing night, the final slot of the Macon Blair Film Festival.
The Taking of the Pelham 123. Along with Repo Man, if I had a gun to my head and I had to pick 5 or 4, it would be up there. It would absolutely be up there. I find it endlessly rewatchable. It's got a lot of the same. There's something about Repo Man when all those guys in the junkyard get together and they're all talking over each other and just bitching at each other.
Yeah.
I could watch that on a loop for 20 hours, and there's a lot of that in Pelham 123 too. It's the New York version. It's a bunch of crusty New Yorkers like complaining and bitching and moaning at each other. And it's so funny. It's also so tight and suspenseful as a crime story. And I think just the way that it sort of juggles, like, oh, this is a really compelling heist movie, whatever. But it's also just like, look at New York, you know, and the mayor, the comptroller, the chief of police, and Walter Matthau's here, and just like this huge cast of characters. And it's just, if you think about movies as being like more so than the plot or more so than the payoff, but just like a world that you can exist in, like I love sitting down in that world and just sort of existing.
The ultimate hits the landing. Not to give anything away, got to watch it, but there's no movie that ends better than this movie.
I agree. And one of my favorite things is, and this has happened a couple of times, because like I don't care if I watched it yesterday, I will watch it again today if the opportunity presents itself. And so I've gotten to show it to people that haven't seen it before. And so then when it gets to the ending, I just kind of like go like this and I watch their face, and it's always like, oh, it's such a great, like, it's just a great punctuation mark. A lot of times movies sort of like, they wind up and they go like this, and then it's the credits, and this is just like a vertical line. It's just kind of like end on a high note, and then it's back to the music and the credits. It's wonderful.
That's a good point. There's the seeing something for the first time, watching it again, and then watching it with another person watching it for the first time.
It's my favorite, because it's like you get hypnotized about, like, you know what's going to happen, but because I'm assuming this is for you and for everybody too, but for me, it's like if you know that this person has not seen it yet, then I can like put my attention in their perspective and like still be surprised. And maybe it's kind of like, you know, watching vicariously through them, but it's sort of like knowing that like this cool thing is coming up, or like there's no way they're going to guess that this is what's going to happen. And then it sort of feels like I'm watching it for the first time as well too. It's a great one.
Closing night, The Taking of Pelham 123. All right, we got on the board The Taking of Pelham 123. Very unpredictable, much like your films, much like Idiots that's out this week. Very unpredictable, but what is predictable is the board behind you now that it's played. Could you please read us the Macon Blair Film Festival?
My opening night show is going to be Repo Man. My family matinee is going to be the original Clash of the Titans. My double feature, Rude Boy, followed by Rock and Roll High School. audience award. Snakes on a Plane, but with a minimum of 440s. Midnight movie, Begotten. Dream screening, whatever David Lynch was working on when he passed away. Secret screening, a full version of London After Midnight, should it exist. And closing night, my favorite, The Taking of the Pelham 1, 2, 3.
All right, that's it for the Macon Blair Film Festival. Thank you so much for coming down, Macon.
Thank you.
The box office is closed. The American Cinematheque podcast is produced and edited by Victoria Alejandro. Mike Cuenca edits and produces our video. Stephanie Cervantes is our marketing manager. Our theme music is by Gelberg. And I'm your host, Grant Moniger. Thanks to everyone who makes this show possible. The American Cinematheque operates the Aero, Egyptian, and Los Feliz 3 theaters in Los Angeles with programming nationwide. The American Cinematheque is a 501c3 nonprofit. If you'd like to hear more, donate, become a member, or program your own AC Podcast Film Festival, head over to AmericanCinematheque.com.